Welcome back to MSU Tonight. I'm Blake Sandlin.
And I'm Keenan Hall.
And welcome to All In, a sports debate show with a twist. You've watched sports talk shows before, but on MSU Tonight, we're going to put our money where our mouths are. Every week, we'll debate topics in sports on campus and nationally. We will then produce our best sports takes and wager these poker chips on them based on how confident we are that these predicted events might happen. At the end of the semester, whoever runs out of chips or has the lowest chip count will be forced to sit blindfolded while the winner pours anything of their choosing on them. Keenan, you ready to go?
I'm ready. Let's get it.
Let's get it. So, as Kaylee so lovingly put it, this was the not-so Super Bowl. Let's go ahead and get your first thoughts on that. It was a 13-3 game, the lowest scoring in NFL history. For some people, maybe more defensive lovers, this was the game that they were maybe relishing.
Right. To me, I actually enjoyed the game, as boring as it was. I'm a defensive-first kind of guy, so seeing the defenses actually step up in a Super Bowl game and the biggest game of the year was it's pretty interesting to see to me. Kudos to the defense. You know, you applaud that effort. They're really selling out. I think Brady threw a pick on his first pass of the game. So I mean, you love to see that kind of effort in a championship game. So
for sure,
it was great to see.
To put it into perspective, 55.5 was the over/under for that game, and I guess it hit what, 16?
Yeah, it wasn't nowhere close. I mean, the offenses for both teams had 3 first downs for the entire game.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's put it in perspective. So.
Sure. One stat I thought was interesting, and I think was the comparison between the quarterbacks. Tom Brady, 262 yards, Jared Goff with just 229, but pretty similar stat lines. But I thought the Patriots almost controlled the game the whole way. Did you feel the same way?
Of course. I mean, the Patriots dominated time of possession throughout the game. I think the first half, the Rams probably had about 3 to 5 minutes of possession and probably ran less than 10 plays the whole half. So, I mean, you applaud that effort for the defense. Bill Belichick had a great game plan for that one. So.
For sure. And from Super Bowl, let's move on to maybe some local on-campus events. Let's go to Rifle. Big weekend for them, not the only team celebrating on Super Bowl Sunday, as the Rifle team won their 4th consecutive championship. Keenan, I know you've covered the team extensively all year long. What was your analysis from that event? I mean, it's a testament to how Alan Lauer has transformed that program.
Well, I mean, granted, our OVC Rifle team is one of the best in the country, ranked number 5 in the nation right now. But I mean, in that OVC championship, they were heavily contested. Morehead State had a great shot to win it there at the end. Coach Lawler mentioned earlier. I spoke to him today, but he was confident in his team's ability, and they really separated the score late in the match. So it was pretty well. I mean, 4 straight OVC titles for the Murray State Rifle team, 5th one for Coach Lawler under his leadership. So it was pretty good to see.
Yeah, a great win for them, and they've only lost 2 games this year to UK and West Virginia. So really another great year for this team. They'll play in 2 weeks, correct?
Yes, they have the NCAA qualifiers in 2 weeks. They have a home match against Nebraska University. I think they're ranked number 11 in the country at the moment. So it'll be a pretty good match. Right now they're preparing, they're training, coming off that championship. It's just a regular week for them. They're used to winning here at Murray State Rifle, so they're just going back, training, getting ready, getting rested, icing up, battling through the injuries. So they'll be pretty good. So they'll be ready to go. And from that, we'll move on to women's basketball. Women's basketball, they're coming off a split week last week, going 1-1 in the 2 games they had. Blake, you've been covering women's basketball pretty heavily this year. You want to go ahead and give me your thoughts on last week. How do you think the team did?
Yeah, it was an instrumental week for them. I mean, struggling most of conference play, but coming into this week with Jacksonville State and Tennessee Tech. 2 great teams in the league. Tennessee Tech, number 1 in the league. But Jacksonville State, we'll start with that. That was a game, I think it really instilled a lot of confidence and hope into this team's season, because I think a lot of our confidence wavered a little bit. They have a losing record right now. But that game, I think you saw what we've been looking for most of the year, was that 3rd scoring option. We've seen Evelyn Adebayo, she's averaging 18 a game, and Macy Turley averaging 12 a game. They've been the ever-present scorers, but we've yet to see that 3rd scorer emerge. And we saw that on Thursday with the ascension of Janika Griffith-Wallace. She had 25 points for the team, and Brianna Crane also stepped up with 20. So that led the way and for Jacksonville to defeat Jacksonville State, a huge win for that program, and it really translated to Saturday.
I mean, she in that Jacksonville State game to mention, I mean, Janika, she really looked comfortable
she did
out there with the ball. I mean, not many of the guards could stay in front of her, and she was getting to her spots pretty easily, and she's moving the ball well as well. So go ahead, as you were mentioning about the Tennessee Tech game as well last week.
Yeah, the Tech game, I think no one really expected them to compete in that game, and just based on the prior results. But I think they really surprised people again in that one, and that they came out, they were leading most of the way. I think up until the third quarter, they were tied going into the fourth. But I think what's cost them a lot of times has just been the turnovers, and in this game in particular, the points in the paint. They weren't able, or not the points in the paint, excuse me, the points off the bench.
Yeah.
That team, I think they had 45 points off the bench, 2 players combining for, I think, 32 points. So you can't win that brand of basketball. But, yeah, again, the turnovers costly in that one. But I think overall it was a promising weekend.
I believe so as well. Much to look forward to for the women's basketball. Sure. Of course, they're still growing. They're a young team as well, but we'll be looking forward to seeing what they do next.
Yeah, and on the subject of turnovers, I wanted to kind of get into our first bet here. Okay. Because turnovers, they're averaging 17.7, I think, 17.4 on this season. So this weekend coming up, you got EIU, you got SIUE. Let's set the line at 17.
Okay.
Will this Murray State team commit more than 17 turnovers? What's your take on that one?
Well, given that they've been on the road for the past 2 games, I think coming back home they'll enjoy the home stay for a couple games. So I'm going to go under 17. I'm going to put 3 chips in on that one.
3 chips. Okay, feeling good about it then.
That's 4, but
okay, 4 chips on that. Okay, so I'm thinking over on this game. Let me tell you why. EIU, they're averaging 19.8 turnovers to their opponents. That's how much they're turning the ball over on the other side. Murray State, in the first meeting with EIU, they turned it over 23 times. I get that it's a home game, but, I mean, 19.8, it's hard to argue with that automatically. This team, Murray State, has struggled protecting the ball, and this doesn't appear like it's trending in the right direction. Until I see otherwise, it's hard for me to say they're going to be able to temper those turnovers and take care of the ball. So I'll match it. I'll match with 4.
All right.
And so we will see what happens on that. So for our next prediction, let's talk just the results of the weekend. Like I said, EIU Thursday at 5 o'clock, SIUE Saturday at 5 o'clock, doubleheaders in both of those games. How do you feel like the team is going to fare this weekend? What's the record coming out of this weekend?
Well, you made a good point with the turnovers there.
Yeah.
Coming out of this weekend, I say the women's varsity team go 0-2.
Okay.
They've been struggling as of late to close out some games. They've been in most of the games that they've lost. They had a chance to win it at the end, but just late game execution hasn't been there. And it goes back to, of course, the maturity and just the lack of leadership on the team. So I say they go 0-2. If we're betting on this, I'm just going to put one of my chips in. It's already put 4 in.
Okay,
so
I like that.
I don't want to lose it on the first week. So
that's.
What do you think?
I don't disagree. It could easily happen. We've seen it all year long. Eastern Illinois was a close game the first time they played. If it wasn't for the turnovers, I think that easily could have been a Murray State win. So I'll match you with the 1. I think they are going to go 1-1 though. Take Eastern Illinois. SIUE in that game last year. I thought SIUE controlled the whole game. They could shoot really well, and I thought the effort from Murray State in that game a few weeks ago, wasn't there. So I think 1-1, a respectable result given the opponents and the way they've played for most of the year. From that, let's move on to men's basketball. 1-1 last week.
Right.
Jacksonville State on Thursday and Tennessee Tech on Saturday. Keenan, you watched those games. Tell me what your first thoughts and takeaways from those games were.
Well, the Jacksonville State game looks like they weren't ever in that one to start off. We got down pretty early, and we never got our traction in that game. Losing on 20 points on the road in a game that we should have won, but a lot of people didn't think we would win. Of course, John Morant played about as well as he could, given that he's always been the main focus on the defense, against the defense from the other opposing team. So my prediction for this week, I believe they'll probably go 2-0. I think this weekend.
2-0.
This week, yeah.
Interesting. And the guys, like we said, Eastern Illinois awaits them on Thursday and SIUE on Saturday. In my opinion, that Jacksonville State game, I thought, of course, that was the battle for first place. They were both tied at that time. That was a pride game, man, and it didn't play out like that. I thought the team honestly lost interest and didn't really have the effort. That lead ballooned to 20 towards the end of the game. I think they had it at 11 with about 8 minutes to go. But I think you saw the fight JSU had. They didn't take anything for granted, and Murray State honestly did. And I think for fans that maybe chalked the Belmont loss as a fluke, maybe Jaw wasn't playing his best, so maybe we'll beat them another time. Maybe that's what they considered that. But when you see them beat by 20, I think you start to understand the deficiencies that this team has, and maybe expose that a little bit more. So as far as this weekend goes, you put two on that?
I put 2. I said they're going 2-0, but I'll put 2 chips on that. So
okay,
I think they're pretty confident. They're coming back home after 2 games on the road, splitting last week. I see the big stepping up this week, having a great game. Darnell Coward and KJ Williams. I think they'll step up this week. They had a kind of a lackluster game at Jacksonville State, and then they were struggling in that Tech game late, and so I think they'll go 2-0 this week. The 2 home games will be good for them. So, what do you think?
No, I mean, you mentioned those big guys, and you're absolutely right. Darnell Cowart, 2 for 9 in that JSU game. KJ Williams, off and on, I think, most of the year, and that's the thing with just getting them both to play together cohesively. And they're 2 different players, I think. Darnell's primarily a back-to-basket type of guy, and KJ is more of that power bruiser inside. But a prediction that I want to address. Will KJ Williams and Darnell Cowart combine for 18 points in at least one game this weekend?
In at least one game. I say yes, they do.
Okay.
You got Darnell averaging about 8.6 points a game, and KJ hovering around 7, almost 8 points. I say they do. Both of them combined score at least over 18. You're gonna probably see them get fed pretty early. John's probably gonna get everybody going until he settles the game down. Get them amped up. So I feel like they'll probably get over that easily.
Interesting. I'm going to say no on that. I think they haven't really played well at the same time for most of the season. I'm going to put 2 chips on that.
2.
And you're going to match with 2.
I put 1. You get 2.
Okay.
I'm all in.
Fine. All right, so that's
a
we're going to close with one thing, our wild card of the week. That's national news, whatever's going on in the headlines. We're going to have one bet on that. And this week it's with the trade deadline approaching on Thursday. Will Anthony Davis will he be traded by the Pelicans before the trade deadline?
No.
Yes,
the Pelicans, simply put, they're salty that LeBron James basically took AD right from under them. They drafted him with hopes of him developing, and he's actually surpassed what they thought he would be. So I don't see them trading him. They'll probably just hold him off and just say forget everybody else.
Interesting. I'm going to put 1 chip.
Me too.
I'm going to say yes. The Celtics. I think AD has indicated that he doesn't want to go to the Celtics long term, and I think that's what the Pelicans were waiting for as far as holding it past the trade deadline for a trade. So I think that they will jump on a trade. The Lakers have obviously shown interest. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I think some team will come with an offer, whoever that might be, before the deadline at 3 o'clock on Thursday. So we shall see.
Okay. There's more MSU tonight on the way. Stay tuned.